Hello? Okay. So I won't shout as before. I will try to speak not so loud. It's strange. Anyway, so what's the purpose of code reviews? Okay, do you know why we're doing code reviews? Anyone? Give me some hints. Yep. Good. Another one? Quality. Yep. Quality. Excellent. Yeah. Cool. So I had a list of a few things. So the first and obvious, okay, is to find bugs, okay, to see. This is a very polite way of explaining that, hey, I want to find some bugs. So it's to find some weak spots, okay, or faults or strengths in the code base. That's the obvious reason. Then we can suggest performance optimizations, okay, and definitely the goal is to deliver something of highest quality. If we can eliminate most of the bugs during the code review, that would be awesome. So, but this requires, as we see, automation, standards, good practices, and of course, experienced reviewers. There are some more things, okay? Like you said, it's to share understanding. So all the team members can learn from each other. Now, I'm reviewing a lot of code, and I have to admit, I learned a lot of things by reviewing others' code, okay? Nobody's perfect. You know, even you can learn from a junior guy who has great skills and he writes perfect code. So it's a learning activity, actually, okay? You share knowledge with the other team members. We keep a consistency of implementation. If we follow the same practices, the same patterns, people again learn from each other, and you can see that the code base is getting bigger and bigger, but there's a consistency. You can understand how people write code because they follow the same practices and they review each other. And definitely, we can identify some common problems. I mean, people tend to repeating the same errors, okay? And if you work in the same team, you get infected, so you do the same errors that others do. So we can reduce these common problems, thus we increase productivity of the team. And as you said, yeah, a second pair of eyes is always better. You know, when you look from a bird's view the code base, you can see things that the actual, let's say, programmer wasn't able to identify. Now, what things I learned? Quickly, I will explain to you about standards, automation, how you can prepare yourself before you're doing the actual code review, and about reviewers and developer psychology, which is really interested to see how people react, and balance. So let me start with standards. Okay, why do we need standards? Okay, when I tried to review from the first place some code, okay, I have in my mind something that I have to review. But then people ask me, why did you put that comment? I mean, the other guy is allowing me to do so. So, you know, there was some argument if we want to use my approach or the other approach. So we need to come with standards how we review other people's code. And we need to answer questions like, how do we format the code? Are we using 2 or 4 spaces indentation, okay? Do we have a set of quality rules? What kind of naming conventions are we using? Okay, these are things that they have to be common. Otherwise, what's the purpose of reviewing the code? Do we write unit tests or not? Obviously, you know the answer. Or what are the test conventions? Okay, are we using any particular libraries? How do we measure the quality of tests? Okay, do we expect one assertion or more assertions? Or what kind of design patterns we follow? Or things like that. You know, what is the project structure? I mean, if you are working in a web application, are you layering your packages using service controllers or whatever, or in per module? So all these questions have to be answered by the team before starting defining all these standards and practices. So they have to be objective, okay, and they have to be common in all different projects. I mean, it's very difficult for me to review something following an X set of rules and then go to another project and follow a different set of rules, okay? So inside the team, inside the company, or let's say teams, we have to follow the same rules. They have to be very clear, not leaving room for different interpretations. And they have to be documented, like, let's say, a quick code review checklist. Why? Because people, developers and reviewers, can always refer to that checklist and see what they have to be to review, or they have to write the code as expected. And of course, everything has to be explained, justified, so the team understands why they have to follow all this checklist, and of course the reviewers. However, there's still some things that cannot be, let's say, standardized. So, for instance, how do you explain if a code is readable, okay, or maintainable? So there's always some, let's say, subjective role in the reviewer's job. So if you read the code and you don't understand it, then something is wrong, something like you feel it, okay? So although we can define a good set of rules and standards, there is always something that has to be subjective from the reviewer. And I want to explain that when we get the standards, okay, we need to find a good balance between automated, let's say, code reviews and manual. And I'm going to explain why. Now, if you don't have any automation and you are doing only manual code reviews, this is what is going to happen, usually, okay? We have our developers, and developers, okay, I've got this nice reviewer, okay, I don't give a shit about this thing. The reviewer will catch it and will return it back. If I don't catch it, that's fine. I have my code submitted in the code base and I go to the next task. Now, on the other side, we have the reviewers, okay, who say, okay, these developers are awesome. I will not check their code. So what it happens, nobody checks the code, okay, and we completely destroy this process. So all team members should be aware of the rules and the process, and they have to follow it, okay, either developers or reviewers. And many times, these two guys change position. The reviewer is becoming a developer and vice versa. Now, I was talking about automation and why this is important. Let me explain a few things. Time is money, you know that, okay? And reviewing code is a very demanding activity because you spend a lot of time reading, understanding the code, and finding problems. So it's difficult, and we have to be, like I told you, very careful and very focused. The first thing that we have to do is, the first step towards automation is you have automated builds per pull request, okay? And this obviously, let's say, assume that you are using some source control management system that supports pull requests and stuff like that. So it's like Git or Mercurial. I don't think that SVN would ever be a good candidate. So that's number one. Okay, automate your pull request builds. Then run unit tests, pretty simple. Run integration tests, okay? And by integration tests, I mean everything else that is not unit test, okay? You can call it API tests, in-container tests, or UI tests, whatever you name it, but they are not unit tests, okay? Run whatever tests you have. Then run your quality analysis, okay, in the same, let's say, automation process about a specific code review. And then integrate all this stuff together, okay? So you have your code review tool, you have your build tool, and your quality tool. And all together, they provide some good results, as we see, and help you be more productive and find things easier. So let's see how these things help us get some automation. Now, I will not, and yeah, the final step is to have rejection rules. So automatically, the code review is rejected if one or more rules are not met. Okay, and I will show you some examples in a couple of slides. So let's see the first automation step. Now, this is a list of, let's say, pull requests. Doesn't matter which tool I'm using. You can accomplish almost the same results in many popular code review tools. Now, you have a list. These are the code review tools. And you see here on the right side, okay, a build status indicator, okay? So that's the first level of automation. You know exactly if this pull request is breaking the build or not, okay? So when I see that there's a red sign, I don't care. The build is broken. Probably it's a compilation issue or a test issue. Something is failing. I don't care. The developer has to fix it. I don't move to the next step, which is actually reviewing the code, because this pull request, this code review needs more work from the from the reviewer. Now, once we get the build passing, okay, we can have a more, let's say, a high-level overview of the code that has been submitted. And you see many colors and numbers here. Let me explain a little bit about that. Okay, the first thing is to have a quality gate status, which means that if this code review, the new and changed code, is actually meeting the quality status that we want to achieve in every change. So if it's green, all good, we can move to the next thing. If it's red, then something is wrong, so you should go back to the developer and ask him to improve it, okay? And the good thing is that all these things are available to both the reviewer and the developer, so nothing is hidden. It's not a secret anymore. And the next thing is that we got some nice things here about the actual problems, the number of problems introduced, or the technical debt delta. I hope, or I assume that you are quite familiar with technical debt. So in my company, what we do is we don't allow any new technical debt introduced in the code base, okay? It's fine that we have all technical debt, but if we add more, there's no way to accept a pull request, and we fail the code review process. Now, this is, again, a high-level view, okay? This might has, I don't know, 50 different files, so we get a high-level overview, but then we need to dive into the code to see the actual code and examine more things. Now, that's, let's say, the lowest level of granularity. We can see the code viewer, okay? And what is amazing, we have integrated our tools, and we can have automatically reported problems that should be fixed, okay? So we have defined our rule set. We have all agreed that, for instance, hey, we don't want to use checked exceptions. That's a rule, okay? It has been decided by the team, so we follow it. So if someone breaks the rule, then we get this notification. So the reviewer doesn't have to look every line to see if this exception is checked. And how do I know that this one is a checked exception? Probably I don't, okay? So it's almost impossible for a reviewer to do all these details. So we get this nice information. And there are some colors on the left side. Let me explain them to you. So the first line shows you what is the coverage of unit tests, okay? So we know that we don't accept, again, code without unit tests, okay? Especially in business logic. So that's let's say, a flag that, hey, guys, this code is not well tested. So you might want to reject the pull request, reject the review, or add some comments. And the second line is integration tests, okay? So we got the full picture. How well is the code? How well tested is the code? What is the quality, okay? And then, like I told you, we have these quality issues found, reported by our quality analysis tool. So you can see that with a very quick view, I know about the problems, the obvious problems of this code review, of this code. But my work is not done yet. This is, let's say, the first pass that we enforce automated rules. The second pass is to examine things that cannot be automatically detected. So then I dive in, and I see things about architecture. I see things about design, how well structured is the code, okay? If there's any complex functions or methods, if we follow some well-designed patterns or not, or if we didn't also if we didn't implement the code according to the requirements. So there's still more work to be done by the reviewer. But still, we get a nice view of some automated things here. And the last thing about automation is to enforce a list of rules. Now, I have a few examples here. Okay, I'm not sure if you can see them right, but as you see, let me explain them. So first of all, the first one is it's a merge conflict, okay? Obviously, we cannot accept a pull request. We can't do any code review if there's a merge. So let's go fix the conflict first, and then I will review the code. The second one is that we are enforcing here that at least one of these guys, okay, should review the code, okay? If there is no approval, nothing is going to be merged. And then we might have different numbers of approvers. We might have, let's say, 1 or 2 or whatever is the number that you want to enforce in your project. The fourth one is that when we want to fix things, we create tasks. So if there is any open task that hasn't been resolved, then we don't accept the pull request, and we, again, fail the review. And then finally, you get this notification that, hey, you have a broken build. You can't merge the code, okay? And there are more. I mean, we can have a rule when the quality gate is red. Again, don't accept fail the code review process. So you can define a lot of rules, and if one of them or more of them is not passing, then the code review should be failed. As you see, more and more things have been automated, so we leave more room for actual, review by the more experienced guys. Now, automation is fun. Like I told you, the reviewer needs to spend some time to do things manually. So I found a lot of things that needs to be done before the actual code review to prepare yourself. Now, every time allocate X number of minutes and try to be not distracted. This means shut down Skype, Slack, or whatever communication channel you are using and say that for the next 30 minutes, 60 minutes, I'm doing only code reviews. Any distraction might get not very good results. That's the first thing that I learned. Secondly, very important, read the specifications, the requirements of, let's say, the ticket or the feature request, or understand what kind of bug people are trying to fix with this the code submitted. If you understand what you're going to review, then you might be able to fail the review because it's not according to the requirements, or it's not solving the actual problem, or it's not the best way to solve the problem, okay? So read the specification or understand the bug that is underlying the review. Some things that helped me, sometimes I checked out the code locally. I mean, we have this nice code review thing, tool, but when you have many files, you cannot navigate easily in the code review tool. So I download the code and I try to see the dependencies and how the path of the execution path goes. So it helps me sometimes. I think it's a very good idea to check out the code locally and examine it. Again, be focused. Do only one thing at a time. Do not multitask, especially when you're doing code reviews. Obviously, don't do multitask at all, but one thing about this one is for sure. And this also helps me a lot. I don't do it every day, but revisit the code, the checklist, the code review checklist, let's say once or twice a week, just to remember what kind of things you need to pay attention, okay? Because the brain usually forgets about the easy things, and you are not doing your job right. So what I do, I revisit once a day or once a week this checklist, just to be sure that I'm always I remember everything that I need to pay attention at. And be prepared to see everything, okay? And I mean everything. Don't assume that people, even the best developers, that they have bad days and they can create the ugliest or the worst code that you ever seen. And I like this picture here. So it's a method called get serial numbers, and there is a comment, get serial numbers. So what this method should do, and the reviewer says, I'll still look at the code. I only I trust the code, nothing else. So be prepared to see everything. I've seen methods named like this and doing something completely different. Okay, so don't assume that people are having the best days. So now that I'm prepared, I'm actually starting to doing the code review and how it looks like. So the first thing to keep it in mind, the reviewer's work job is to comment on the code, not to criticize people, okay? So don't make it personally. You are criticizing the code. Ideally, if we could have, if we can hide the committer's name, that would be even better for people, or the reviewer's name, because you make it a completely objective process. So be as polite as you can, but comment only on the code. Don't, put your emotion in the review, okay? Yeah, that's me when I got my first code review, and that's my hands 20 years ago later when I reviewed other people's code. Obviously not one. Be polite, okay? Be polite when you ask the developer to do something. Be polite. Start your comment with please do that or please do so, but do not be polite in the code, okay? To the developer, not to the code. Okay, that's two different things. Now, this statement actually implies two things. When you're not sure about the code and you're not sure if this is the correct or wrong thing to do, ask the developer, okay? Ask the developer to get explanations, because you might be missing something, or you don't have all the context, okay? It's not a bad idea to ask questions. And when you want to suggest something, again, try to avoid statements, okay? Like, okay, this is a very ugly code. You can ask, you can put it in a different way, asking a question. But what I find really cool, don't start your questions with why. So for instance, if you are tempted to ask, so why did you name this variable like blah, 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 blah controller? You can say, do you think that we can use a better name for this variable? Or have you thought about renaming this variable? It makes, things more, it's a constructive feedback, and people, people when they get a question, starting with why, they get a defensive position. So I have to defend myself and explain why I did so. So if you try to create a constructive discussion, exchange ideas, you have more chances to get your comment accepted and not get a developer back to you screaming and why did you blah 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 all this stuff. Some more things that you should keep in mind when you are doing the actual code review. Okay, reviewers have no authority just because they are reviewers. Okay, many people tend to confuse themselves. Okay, there's no authority. It's another developer doing another task. Okay, now if you want to get authority, then you can get it by your experience and your knowledge that you pass to your other team fellows. Never a reviewer has more authority or more power than the developers. They are equally balanced in the team. Okay. Yeah, that's another meme, but I like it. Okay, when two people are criticizing people and they want to fail a review, there's no authority again on this part. Don't act like prima donnas. Okay, you're not the god. Reviewers are still developers, and they probably do the same things or even worse things. So try again to act not like this kind of stuff. Now, there are many cases when you review junior developers' code or people that are not very experienced or skilled, and you have to explain again and again and again and again the same piece of code, because people don't have the same mindset with you. So be patient, okay? You were there 10, 15 years, 20 years ago, so try to be at their position, okay? And again, respect them, okay? They are doing their job. They're trying to learn from you, so respect them as much as you can, and again, be patient. And one thing that works pretty well, review code in small chunks. Well, when you got some pull requests with a few files, which is pretty easy, but there are sometimes some huge pull requests with, I don't know, 100 files and many changes, those refactoring tasks. It's completely not feasible to do that in a one, let's say, pass. So do small chunks, allocate, let's say, 20 minutes to review, let's say, that module, and then spend some time doing something else, and then go back to the same review, pull request and review some other part of the code. This will increase your productivity, and that's for sure you will get better results. Some more things to keep in mind when you're doing the actual code review. Have no fear, okay? Especially if you are reviewing the code for the superhero of the team, and you say, okay, I don't want to write this comment because he's the super duper developer of the team. He's working for the company for 20 years and nobody can touch him. No. I mean, you're performing a role here. You're wearing the hat of the reviewer. Have no fear. Express your comment, your doubts. Even if it's wrong, that's fine. You are doing your job well. I mean, it's better to leave a comment, but so that you have reviewed the code, even if it's not right. It's better than no leaving any comment. Okay? So be fearless. Do not compromise. Some things when you have your manager, I want to release this thing today. Okay, which means compromising delivery, fast delivery over quality code. Well, I know that's not always possible, but try not to compromise and do your job as best as you can. Be objective, which is pretty easy if you have all these standards and automation. I mean, there's no room to do much things differently from other people. When you propose something else, or you try to explain to the developer that something is not well written, give links or articles and try to justify your comment. I mean, you can't just, you know, something like that, okay? And there's no argument, I have 20 years in Java, so you will do what I think. There's no argument, okay? That's not an argument. Provide links, discuss with developers if you have different opinions, okay? And last but not least, be always ready to step back. Now, that's a huge, I mean, that requires a huge effort, especially if you are reviewing, you know, a junior developer work, and it turns out your suggestion is not the correct one. But that's fine. I mean, step back and say, okay, you are right, I was wrong, cool, let's move to the next code review. Nobody will kill you, okay? What else? Yeah, when you see a nice pull request and you have no comment, well, give kudos publicly. Raise your hand and say, hey guys, this is a great pull request, this is a great code. Well done, X developer, well done. I mean, why not? Yeah. Now, an extra step, which is, let's say, the subjective part of the code review. Read the code as much as you can and try to measure how much time you spend to understand it. If it takes, I don't know, more than a few seconds to understand the method or a function, something is wrong, okay? Which is, let's say, more subjective, okay? And what other things you should pay attention? Can you easily debug it? That's why I download the code sometimes. Is it testable? Okay, and that's the correlation between testing. I mean, if you see very complex tests or many tests to test only one method, then something is wrong with that method, okay? Not very well tested. Any design patterns followed or any cases? Does it scale easily? Okay, I mean, most of the systems are working on the cloud, and probably we need to see if the code scale easily. And if it's secure, okay? I don't want to dive into this right now, but there are so many patterns about security in different layers, so we have to be ready to identify those and explain people how to use. I mean, from SQL injection or using cookies, whatever, okay? It depends on the project. Now, developer psychology. You have to remember one thing. Either you're a developer or a reviewer, okay? Everyone takes it personally. That's for sure. No matter what you do, no matter how polite you be, people will take it personally. I take it personally, okay? Because it's my code, it's my art. So when you get this code review, you feel that, hey, my knowledge is judged, my skills are under doubt, my decisions are criticized. Who the hell are you? And even my job is threatened because you left all these 20 different comments in 2 classes, okay? So I take it personally. So no matter what you do as a reviewer, keep that in mind so you can minimize, you know, this effect as much as possible. And obviously, you need to keep in mind that who likes code reviews? I mean, who likes to have their code reviewed? Nobody. I don't. Okay, I have to do it. I don't. Okay. And developers, by definition, are perfect. Okay. I think this is the first thing we learn at the university or whatever thing. We are perfect. We don't make any mistakes. Okay. So we don't need code reviews. That's for sure. And, oops, sorry. Again, I know many people are doing this. I mean, they submit a pull request at 5 p.m. and, you know, they hope that somebody will pass the pull request during the weekend, and they come up on Monday and say, okay, my code review was passed. I'm very lucky. Well, I don't think that it works all the time. Okay. And of course, developers don't want to follow standards. We are cowboys. We write the code as we want, okay, to get the feature done at the end of the day, okay. No testing. There's no point to write tests, okay. And we are ready to fight for many hours for every little comment. I spent, I don't know, 3 hours 2 weeks ago not fighting chatting on Slack and explaining to a developer that he didn't want to change the way he implemented the thing. It was 3 hours, probably multitasking, but it took 3 hours until, okay, we reached, let's say, somewhere in the middle, and we find let's say, an agreement. But developers are ready to fight for their code. I'm ready to fight. So the last thing, keep it balanced. Okay, we've seen so many things: automation, rules, blah blah blah, things to take care, security, scaling. It's a huge list. Okay, but keep it balanced. Okay, now it's okay to have a code with, I don't know, 2 spaces more than, or use an extra curly brace in the beginning of the sentence. Okay, it's fine, nothing will break. So don't be exhaustive. Try to keep a balance between doing an actual code review that makes sense and be productive at the same time. Now, as a bonus, there's what I call a code review maturity model. I don't want to dive into every cell, but what this describes is actually the level of automation, the level of maturity, how the tools are used, the processes, okay, the standards, the guidelines. So I will upload the slides so you can read it in details, and you can measure your, let's say, maturity level in your team, your organization, okay, and there are different levels and different, let's say, categories. So you can see where you're at now and how you can achieve, let's say, the level 4 for all different categories. Now, if I had to keep in mind when you leave this room, 5 things I would focus on. Remember that code review is an essential practice. It should be part of the development process. Okay, you should make it as first-class citizen. Automate as much as possible and leave room for the reviewer to do the actual review, okay, the actual design, and things that cannot be automated. So automation is a must. Define standards, objective, accepted by all team members so they can follow them, realistic, okay, nothing that is, rocket science and nobody follows it. And be open-minded. Like I told you, be ready to accept criticism on your code or your personality, okay? Be ready to step back, be ready to discuss, okay? There's no way to fight with developers or reviewers for things like that. And like I told you, don't make it personal, okay? In a bad or good way. I mean, you have a very good friend working the team. Be, do the same code review as you are doing in a freshman, okay? There's no distinction. So don't make it personal. If you keep those things in mind, I think that we can improve the code review process pretty easily. And yeah, I like this one. If you're gonna do code reviews, at least do it correctly, okay? The middle way, it's not always very effective. So do it right, and you will get great results. You will see the quality and the overall team, let's say, performance increasing and knowledge across the team. So I think I'm done. I tried to be on time, to skip all these little problems. So I don't know how much time we have. If you have questions, I'm ready to take them, or we can discuss outside. I don't know how much time do we have. 10 minutes? Really? Okay, so we can have questions if you want. If you don't have any questions, I'll be outside and we can discuss. Thank you very much for your time. Okay, it's great to be there. It's my 3rd time in Bucharest, and you have, I don't know, it's the 3rd different conference I'm attending. And speaking was I think TopConf and iTechCon conference. So you have a great IT community here. Thank you guys for your time. Okay, any questions, or we can just give you 10 minutes to enjoy your socialize outside the team. Yes, please. The automation for this project? Well, yeah. The code review tool is Bitbucket, okay, hosted in our services. We are using Jenkins to automate all the stuff, running all the tests and all these things. SonarQube for code quality, and then we have plugins to integrate all these things together. But the tools is not, the AAB. I mean, you can have the same thing with different tools. Like you can use GitHub, or you can use any other tool that can do the same things. But the idea is to automate things. Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah, good question. So, mostly we do code review sessions on the tool, but if, especially in big pull requests, we might have, let's say, a chat together, sitting at the code and see, because you need to understand some things, the decisions made by the developer, and you might miss, important aspects. But yeah, if it's needed, yeah, we do a code review session, together in the same screen, or on a conference call if we are not working together. That's the same. Yes, please. How many reviewers are reviewing every? Well, we try to have at least one, definitely, but two is the ideal. Otherwise, it gets you lose productivity. Okay, two, especially for new features, we have two. For small pull requests, one is fine. But for big features, two, yeah, we try to have two reviewers to accept the code and review the code. But it's open. Anyone can review anything. I mean, it's like I told you, it's a learning process. So anyone can review any pull request, any code review. It's an open process. Okay. Yes, please. Ah, I don't think it can be counted with lines. Sorry. Not even files change. It's how complex is the feature by definition, how complex is implemented. I mean, I can implement the same feature with 10 lines and 100 lines. Okay, so let's say we measure a big feature from the business perspective, how much it will affect the product and the clients and the users of the system. No, I mean, of course, you can do the same thing with less line of code, but this is the reviewer's job to see if we can get better quality with less lines. But we don't have any, let's say, rule to enforce X number of lines per file or things like that. Oh, that's why I do small chunks of code. I mean, I review the first, let's say, 20 files, and I take a break, and after 2 hours, I review the other files to make it easier for the reviewer. But there's no restriction on that. Maybe we should, but we don't. Yeah. Usually we do at the end, but again, in big features or when we introduce, let's say, new libraries and technologies, we are doing it in code reviews. Okay, maybe live in code reviews or formal. Yeah, but that's the case ad hoc on ad hoc basic, but we do it also. Yeah, that's a good question. Yes, please. From a review perspective or from process perspective? Sorry, from? Well, yeah. When you write a comment, you discuss the comment with the developer explaining, and when you see, okay, I'm done with, let's say, the new changes, and you see again the same problem. It's frustrating. And when you see the same thing again and again and again by the same developer in many different, let's say, pull requests, that's kind of frustrating because, I don't know, people don't pay attention, I guess. That's at least from my side. I don't know if that answers your question, more or less. Okay. No, everyone, everyone, everyone. Because, like I told you, it's a learning process. Everyone can learn doing code reviews. So no, I prefer that everyone is reviewing the work from other people. That's for sure. Yeah, I haven't counted, to be honest, but there are some cases we found bugs. We found null pointer exceptions, and things like that, or performance things, or not closing connections and stuff like that. Not by manually coding, but automation, okay? But we do find bugs that they might be problems in production environment. Yes, we do find bugs, definitely. Yes. Yeah, usually there are some people that have great knowledge on a particular module or particular features. So in that case, we explicitly ask them to review this part of the code. We know, I mean, which developer has an expertise on a particular module, so we ask them to do the review. And you know, it's an extra, let's say, pair of eyes on the existing code review process. Okay. Okay. It depends. No, I don't know. I don't know. It depends. Usually well, you spend more time developing, but I find myself sometimes to spend hours reviewing a feature, and I mean hours. I mean, I spend half of the day reviewing a particular feature because it was a mess. Okay, so I had to write a lot of comments. Okay, I think we are done. Again, thank you very much for your attention, guys. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and see you soon.